Welcome to Sleepy Science, where the universe slows down just enough for your thoughts to drift softly into wonder. Tonight we explore one of the quietest mysteries of the cosmos, the seemingly empty spaces between stars, between galaxies, between everything we think we understand. These dark gaps look silent, calm, and lifeless, but they hold secrets older than light itself. Before we begin, take a gentle breath. Let your shoulders relax and settle into the comfort of curiosity. When we look at the night sky, we see stars, planets, glowing clouds, and distant galaxies. But most of what lies above us appears as endless darkness. It is tempting to imagine that these dark regions are truly empty, simple voids that hold nothing at all. But the universe does not waste space. What looks empty is often full of invisible structure, quiet forces, and hidden matter that shapes everything we see. Space is not a hollow room. It is a deep ocean, and darkness is only the surface. Scientists call these regions interstellar and intergalactic space, but names can be misleading. The word space suggests emptiness, yet even the most silent parts of the cosmos are not entirely quiet. At first glance, they seem still, but if you could drift through them, you would find scattered atoms drifting like dust, thin clouds of invisible particles, and ripples of energy moving slower than thought. These particles are so spread apart that you could travel for years without touching one, yet together they shape the universe on scales too vast to imagine. Between stars lies a mixture of gas, dust, and strange unseen material that exerts a quiet pull on everything around it. Between galaxies, the darkness grows even deeper, but even there, something stirs. Gravity stretches across the void, binding galaxies into clusters. Thin, faint threads of matter connect them like cosmic bridges. These structures are so delicate that no eye can see them, yet so strong that they guide the paths of entire galaxies. And then there is the light that fills the silence. Not the bright light of stars or the glowing haze of nebulae, but a soft, ancient light that has traveled across the universe for billions of years. It spreads evenly through space, a faint echo of the beginning of time. It moves through the gaps like a memory too old to fade. This light is quiet, gentle, almost ghost-like, yet it carries the story of the universe within it. The silent gaps of space may seem empty, but they are shaped by forces that rarely announce themselves. Gravity pulls from afar, connecting distant objects like invisible threads. Radiation drifts without warmth. Particles move without weight. These things are not alive in the way we understand life, yet they move and influence the cosmos with a steady, patient rhythm. Space is not dead. It is simply quiet. As you imagine these gaps, think of them not as voids, but as oceans of silence, filled with delicate structures that guide everything around them. The emptiness is only an illusion created by distance. There is always something there, always something moving, even when we cannot see it. And within that silence lies the oldest truth of all, that the universe needs darkness so that light can exist, and it needs emptiness so that matter can move. If you are ready, we will continue even deeper into this cosmic quiet, exploring what these invisible structures truly are, why they matter, and how they shape the fate of everything in the universe. When you drift farther into the dark regions between stars, the familiar points of light begin to spread apart and the silence grows deeper. It is a silence unlike anything on Earth, a silence without air, without vibration, without the faintest whisper of wind. Yet within this silence, something delicate is always unfolding. The space between stars is filled with gentle traces of matter, particles wandering through the darkness like tiny travelers with no destination. They drift slowly, guided only by gravity and faint currents of energy that stretch across light years. These particles form what scientists call the interstellar medium, a thin blend of gas and dust, so spread out that a single breath of Earth's air contains more atoms than an entire room of cosmic space. But this medium is not meaningless. It is the raw material from which stars are born. When enough of it gathers, it collapses under its own weight, forming stellar nurseries where new suns ignite. So even in the quietest regions between stars, the ingredients of creation lie waiting, patient and weightless, drifting until their moment arrives. But as you move away from the gentle glow of stars and into the broader darkness between galaxies, the silence deepens even more. The distances widen until each point of light feels like an island lost in an endless sea. Here the matter thins to almost nothing, yet the void is not empty. Invisible threads of something heavier stretch across these vast spaces. They do not shine, they do not glow, and they do not interact with light in any familiar way, yet their presence is undeniable. They are like hidden currents in the deep ocean, shaping everything around them without ever revealing themselves. This unseen material forms an enormous cosmic web, a structure so vast that it extends across the observable universe. Galaxies gather along its threads like beads on a necklace, held together by a force that does not speak through light but through gravity. These silent bridges are made from what we call dark matter, a mysterious form of mass that surrounds every galaxy and fills the gaps between them. Dark matter is not alive, yet it behaves with a strange sense of purpose. It shapes, stabilizes, and supports the cosmic landscape like the skeleton of a living organism. If you could glide through these spaces, the darkness would feel endless, but subtle forces would still guide your path. Gravity would tug gently from distant galaxies. The faint glow of ancient radiation would wash over you like a soft breeze. Tiny particles left from the birth of the universe would slip past you, countless in number, yet almost impossible to detect. Space would feel silent, but it would never be motionless. Energy itself moves through these gaps. Invisible waves ripple slowly across the universe, spreading from distant events that occurred long before Earth ever formed. These waves stretch and relax the fabric of space so gently that you would never feel them. Yet they pass through everything without resistance. They are the quiet echoes of cosmic collisions, the soft memory of stars that lived and died long ago. Even light behaves differently in these spaces, without dust to scatter it or gas to slow it. Light travels freely, crossing unimaginable distances without losing its calm brightness. A single photon can wander for billions of years, untouched, unchanged, carrying with it the history of the universe. It drifts through the gaps like a wandering storyteller, moving between galaxies with nothing to stop its journey. The silent gaps of space may appear lifeless, but they hold the most subtle forms of structure in the cosmos. They cradle dark matter, ancient radiation, wandering particles, and the faint echoes of distant events. These things are quiet, nearly invisible, but without them, the universe would collapse into chaos. The gaps hold the cosmos together. They allow galaxies to form, stars to shine, and planets to exist. The silence is not emptiness. It is the framework that supports everything. As you drift deeper into the silent oceans between galaxies, the darkness begins to feel almost soft, like a vast and endless quiet that folds gently around everything. This stillness is deceiving, because even here, in what seems like pure emptiness, there are quiet forms of motion that never stop. Space looks calm because its movements are slow, patient, and subtle, unfolding over stretches of time far longer than any human life. If you could watch long enough, you would see the darkness shifting like a slow tide. The most delicate movement in these regions is the gentle expansion of space itself. The gaps between galaxies grow wider, not because anything is pushing them apart, but because the fabric of space slowly stretches. This stretching is silent and steady, impossible to feel, yet it changes the shape of the universe with every passing moment. You could float in one place for what feels like eternity, yet distant galaxies would drift farther away, carried by a quiet expansion that never rests. Inside this expanding darkness lies a strange, invisible form of energy. It does not glow, it does not push against you, and it does not reveal itself through any familiar behavior. Scientists call it dark energy, but the name only hints at its mystery. This energy fills all of space evenly, spreading through every gap and every silence, guiding the universe into a gentle looseness. It is not alive, yet it shapes the fate of galaxies, deciding how far they drift and how the universe evolves with time. If you could see this energy, it would appear as a soft tension woven through the cosmos, stretching the distances between galaxies like a silent breath. It does not disturb the calm. It simply widens it, creating more space for the universe to unfold. The expansion may be slow, but it is steady, and in the vastness of cosmic time, slow movements can reshape everything. Even the particles drifting here are not entirely still. They wander through space with no direction, guided only by faint traces of gravity left behind by distant galaxies. Some of these particles are debris from old stars that exploded long ago, scattered across the universe like dust from ancient fires. Others are relics from the earliest moments after the universe began, tiny fragments that have been drifting through space since the first flicker of creation. Each particle carries a history far older than Earth, yet it drifts so quietly that you could pass through it without ever noticing. And then there are the photons, those tiny packets of light that travel through the darkness without slowing. In these regions, a single photon can cross unimaginable distances without meeting a single obstacle. It moves freely, like a silent traveler carrying stories of distant stars. Some of these photons were born long before Earth existed, and yet they continue their journey. Untouched by time, unchanged by space, they fill the universe with a faint, ancient glow. A quiet memory of the first light that ever appeared. Even the vacuum itself is not truly empty. It shivers with tiny fluctuations, brief sparks of energy that appear and disappear too quickly to be captured. These flickers are not alive, but they are always there, humming beneath the silence. If space were truly empty, these fluctuations would not exist. The universe would be still, frozen, unchanging. But instead, even the vacuum breathes in its own quiet way, revealing that emptiness is an illusion. So when you imagine floating in these silent gaps, understand that the stillness you feel is only the surface. Beneath it lies motion, energy, history, and structure. The gaps are not hollow. They are the connective tissue of the universe, the background upon which galaxies dance and stars live out their lives. Without these silent regions, nothing could exist in harmony. As you drift farther into the deep quiet, the darkness begins to reveal a structure that cannot be seen with ordinary eyes. The universe, even in its most silent gaps, is not scattered at random. It is arranged in patterns so large and delicate that they can only be understood from far above, like the branches of a cosmic tree stretching across unimaginable distances. This hidden architecture is known as the cosmic web, a vast network woven from matter both visible and invisible, stretching through the darkness with the softness of a whisper. The cosmic web is made of filaments, long, thin structures filled with dark matter and faint traces of gas. These filaments are the universe's highways, guiding galaxies into clusters and shaping their paths over billions of years. They are not bright or loud. They do not glow or shimmer. They exist as silent strands that pull lightly on everything around them, forming a web so enormous that no eye or telescope can see it directly. Instead, we see the way galaxies follow its shape, gathering along its threads like beads resting on invisible lines. If you could drift through one of these filaments, it would feel like moving through the framework of a great cosmic skeleton. The density would be far lower than the best vacuum humans can create on Earth, yet it would still be fuller than the emptiness around it. You would not feel it on your skin or see it with your eyes, but gravity would tug at you very gently, hinting that something unseen lies beneath the darkness. This pull is the touch of dark matter, a quiet force shaping the universe without ever revealing its form. Between the filaments lie enormous voids, vast regions almost empty of galaxies. These voids might seem like empty deserts of space, but even they are not hollow. They contain particles so spread out that each one may sit dozens of kilometers apart, drifting slowly, waiting for gravity to guide them toward denser regions. The voids breathe softly as the universe expands, growing wider with time, allowing galaxies to drift to the edges where the filaments lie. The silence in these voids is not a sign of absence. It is a sign of delicate balance. The cosmic web is the reason galaxies are not scattered randomly. It is the reason some regions of the universe glow with thousands of stars, while others remain dark and quiet. And though it is invisible, its shape is written across the sky. When astronomers map the position of galaxies, a pattern emerges, a lacework of clusters and strands, empty pockets and glowing nodes. Why to make known is that way or where? Why? Gyro? This pattern is the fingerprint of the cosmos, a quiet structure older than any star. Even light itself bends as it passes through this hidden frame. Photons stretch and bow under the pull of dark matter, their paths gently curved by invisible gravity. This bending reveals the web's outline, not through sight but through distortion. It is like seeing the shape of wind by watching the grass move, or hearing the presence of a river by listening to the sound of water against stone. The web speaks through its influence, never through its appearance. And the most fascinating truth of all is this, whispered across the silence of space. The gaps, the darkness, the places where nothing seems to exist, hold more mass than the glowing galaxies themselves. The visible universe is only the decoration on top of a far deeper structure. The stars are like lanterns hung upon a hidden framework. They shine brightly, but the shape of the universe belongs to the darkness beneath them. So when you imagine these silent gaps, think not of emptiness, but of a grand architecture made from quiet forces, invisible matter, and patient energy. This structure does not shout. It does not burn. It does not sparkle. Yet it holds the entire cosmos in balance, guiding every motion, shaping every cluster, and supporting every galaxy like threads of a softly woven tapestry. When scientists look into the silent gaps of space, they do not see emptiness. They see questions that stretch across the universe like quiet puzzles, waiting to be understood. Many of the deepest theories in modern cosmology were born from trying to understand why these dark regions exist, what fills them, and how they shape the evolution of everything we see. These theories are not wild guesses. They are careful ideas built from decades of observation, calculation, and the subtle motions of galaxies drifting through cosmic time. One of the most important ideas comes from the study of dark matter. Physicists noticed that galaxies spin too quickly to hold themselves together with visible matter alone. Something unseen must be adding extra gravity, something spread out in large halos around galaxies and through the silent spaces between them. Many scientists describe dark matter as the invisible backbone of the universe, a silent structure that guides the formation of galaxies the way a river bed guides the flow of water. Without this unseen mass, galaxies would fall apart. The theory suggests that the gaps of space are shaped not by nothingness, but by this hidden substance. Another theory focuses on dark energy, a mysterious force that pushes the universe apart. Researchers found that the expansion of space is not slowing down, but speeding up, as if an unseen energy fills the gaps and stretches the universe wider with each passing moment. Cosmologists describe dark energy as a soft pressure distributed through all of space, acting evenly, gently, and constantly. This theory explains why galaxies drift away from each other, why voids grow larger, and why the silent gaps between clusters widen like slow breathing. Many scientists combine these two ideas into what is known as the Standard Model of Cosmology, a framework that explains how the visible universe forms upon the invisible scaffolding of dark matter, while dark energy expands the fabric of space around it. In this view, the silent gaps of space are not passive. They are active participants in shaping the cosmos. They expand with dark energy. They curve with invisible mass. They carry the memory of the early universe within their structure. Another fascinating idea comes from the theory of quantum vacuum fluctuations. Physicists discovered that even the emptiest regions of space are filled with brief flashes of energy that appear and disappear too quickly to be seen. These tiny fluctuations create a quiet background hum throughout the universe, a kind of whisper at the foundation of reality. Some scientists believe that these fluctuations influence the earliest moments of the universe, creating slight differences in density that eventually grew into the cosmic web we see today. If this is true, then the silent gaps of space hold the fingerprints of creation itself. Some researchers explore an even deeper theory, one that suggests the cosmic web formed through a delicate balance of pressure and gravity in the early universe. As the universe expanded from its earliest moments, small variations in density allowed some regions to collapse into filaments, while others expanded into voids. Over billions of years, this process created the lace-like pattern of clusters and gaps. In this model, the silent regions are not mistakes or afterthoughts. They are necessary spaces where matter did not gather, places shaped by the natural flow of early cosmic evolution. There are also ideas about hidden particles that might drift through these gaps. Some scientists propose that dark matter may be made of particles that rarely interact with ordinary matter, slipping silently through stars, planets, and people without leaving a trace. These particles could fill the voids like an invisible mist. Others suggest the existence of axions or other exotic particles that might flow through the gaps in ways we cannot yet detect. And then there are theories about the large shape of the universe itself. Some cosmologists believe that the cosmic web reflects the geometry of space, that the voids form naturally in regions where the curvature of the universe allows expansion to happen more freely. If this is true, the silent gaps are not simply empty patches. They are the natural shape of space itself, bending around the unseen forces that guide cosmic evolution. Each theory adds another layer to the mystery. None of them fully reveal what lies in the silent gaps of space, but together they paint a picture filled with quiet energy, invisible matter, ancient light, and the gentle expansion of the universe. The silence is not emptiness. It is complexity hidden beneath calm. When scientists observe the silent gaps of space, they cannot rely on ordinary vision. The voids and filaments do not glow with light, and the matter within them does not speak through familiar signals. To understand these regions, researchers use delicate methods that read the universe like a faint blueprint. Each technique reveals a little of what lies hidden in the darkness, and together they form a quiet map of the invisible. One of the most important tools is gravitational lensing. When light from distant galaxies passes through a region filled with dark matter, it bends slightly, creating subtle distortions in the shape of the galaxy's image. This bending is extremely gentle, but with the right instruments, scientists can detect it. These distortions reveal the presence of mass even when nothing visible is there. In this way, researchers can trace out the silent filaments that cross the universe, mapping the cosmic web through the way it twists light. Another approach uses the motion of galaxies. When astronomers measure how galaxies move, they find that their speeds do not match the amount of visible matter alone. Something hidden must be pulling on them, guiding their paths. The patterns of these motions reveal the structure of the voids and filaments. Galaxies tend to fall toward dense regions and drift away from empty ones, creating a quiet flow that outlines the universe's unseen skeleton. Scientists also study the faint glow of the cosmic background radiation, the ancient light left from the earliest moments of the universe. This light spreads evenly across the sky, but tiny variations in its temperature show where matter was slightly denser in the beginning. These small differences grew over billions of years into the filaments and voids we see today. By reading these delicate patterns, cosmologists can trace the history of the silent gaps, from the tiny ripples of the early universe to the massive structures of today. Even the distribution of galaxies themselves offers clues. When researchers map the positions of millions of galaxies, a pattern emerges, showing clusters, filaments, and empty regions forming a cosmic lattice. This mapping reveals that the universe is not uniform. It is textured, shaped by gravity and expansion into a vast network, stretching across unimaginable distances. The galaxies act like lanterns hanging along invisible threads, marking the hidden architecture of space. One of the most interesting discoveries from these measurements is that voids are not simple, empty spaces. They expand slightly faster than the universe as a whole, as if the lack of matter allows them to breathe more freely. The galaxies near the edges of voids feel this gentle outward pull, drifting away from the emptiness and toward the denser filaments. This creates a quiet flow of motion, a subtle migration shaped not by visible forces, but by the difference between emptiness and fullness. Researchers believe that these silent regions will play a major role in the universe's future. As dark energy continues to expand space, the voids will grow even wider. Galaxies will drift farther apart, and the cosmic web will stretch thinner. Over enormous stretches of time, the universe may become more empty than full, its silence deepening as the gaps widen. The filaments that connect galaxies may weaken, and clusters may become isolated islands in an expanding sea of darkness. Some cosmologists imagine a distant future where the voids dominate everything, where the silence becomes the main feature of the cosmos. In that time, galaxies would be so far apart that their light could never reach each other. The universe would still be full of dark matter and energy, but it would appear lonely, with each island of stars drifting in quiet isolation. The silent gaps we see today would grow into vast oceans, shaping the ultimate fate of the cosmos. Yet even then, the emptiness would not be truly empty. Quantum fluctuations would still shimmer at the foundation of space. Ancient light would still drift through the darkness. The structure of the cosmic web would still lie beneath the surface, faint but enduring. The silence would not be a void, but a deep, patient stillness, holding the memory of everything that once was. As you continue drifting through the quiet stretches of space, you begin to notice a subtle truth. The silence here does not mean nothing is happening. It simply means everything moves too slowly, too gently, or too invisibly for the human mind to feel. In these vast gaps, the universe behaves in ways that do not match the instincts we learned on Earth. Space is calm, but it is also active in its own soft and delicate way. Even the vacuum, which seems like the purest form of emptiness, carries a faint hum of energy. It is not a sound, not a vibration, and not a glow. It is more like a background presence, a quiet shimmer woven into the fabric of reality. Tiny fluctuations appear and vanish so quickly that no eye or instrument can truly capture them. They flicker in and out, shaping the silence with small touches of energy that never last long enough to leave a mark. These subtle flickers give the vacuum a kind of personality, gentle but ever present. They prevent space from being still. Instead of true nothingness, the silent gaps are more like a softly breathing field, always shifting in tiny, delicate ways that influence the universe on the smallest scales. Over great distances and long ages, even such faint energy can have steady effects, guiding the flow of matter and shaping the quiet structure around it. And while these gaps look dark, they are crossed constantly by ancient light. Photons born in distant galaxies wander through the emptiness, drifting across unimaginable distances. Some of them were released billions of years ago, long before Earth existed, and yet they continue gliding through space without slowing. They pass through the voids like travelers on a road that never ends, carrying with them the faint signatures of their origins. In the deeper regions, the darkness feels almost thick, but this thickness comes from distance, not from mass. The light that does reach here is stretched, softened, and thinned by the expansion of space itself. Every moment, the gaps grow a little wider, and the light passing through them becomes a little gentler, like a whisper stretching into silence. Within these dark regions, ordinary particles drift as well, though they are so widely spaced that entire kilometers can pass before one meets another. They move slowly, guided only by the faint gravity of distant galaxies. Their path is not chaotic. It follows the shape of the universe, curving gently toward denser regions while avoiding the most empty pockets of space. Even in stillness, there is direction. Even in emptiness, there is form. The silent gaps are not places of activity in the way suns and planets are. They are more like the resting spaces between cosmic events, the calm between breaths. They cradle the universe, giving galaxies room to form and grow. Without these voids, the cosmos would collapse inward or burst apart. The silence is what holds everything in balance. And as you float through this darkness, you begin to understand that the universe needs its quiet spaces just as much as its bright ones. The silence is not an accident. It is a gentle ingredient in the grand structure of everything. It allows light to travel, matter to gather, and time to unfold. It is the open space in the cosmic story, the calm that shapes the stars. As you glide deeper into the vast quiet between galaxies, a different kind of presence begins to unfold. It is not a shape, not a sound, not a movement, but a feeling, an immense stillness that stretches in every direction. The darkness here is colder than anything found on Earth, colder than ice, colder than shadow. It is a temperature born not from winter or wind, but from the absence of nearby stars. Yet even this cold is not absolute. Nothing in the universe rests entirely. The silent gaps hold a faint warmth, not enough to feel, but enough to reveal that space is never fully empty. A soft glow of ancient radiation fills every corner of the cosmos, drifting through the darkness with the patience of something older than time as we know it. This glow is weak, smooth, and evenly spread, like the soft afterbreath of the early universe. It does not shine, but it exists, bathing the voids in a quiet energy that never disappears. This gentle background light gives the darkness its depth. Without it, the voids would feel hollow. With it, they feel like a calm ocean at night, touched only by the faintest reflection of a distant past. The cold in these regions is not emptiness. It is simply the quiet between warmth and nothingness, a delicate balance shaped by distance from stars. Even the low temperature does not freeze the motion of space. Everything continues to move in slow, patient currents. The expansion of the universe stretches the voids little by little, like cloth being pulled gently outward. Tiny particles drift through the cold without freezing, because freezing requires contact, and here contact is rare. They move almost frictionless, floating along gravitational pathways formed far beyond their reach. If you could pause in this cold silence and watch the universe for ages, you would see the gaps change shape. They would stretch, deepen, and widen as galaxies drift away. The cold would expand with them, becoming more profound, yet still never truly empty. The faint glow of ancient light would grow weaker, but it would remain, the final echo of creation lingering in the quiet, airless night. The cold also helps maintain the structure of the cosmic web. In warmer regions, gas collects more easily, forming stars and galaxies. In colder regions, matter remains thin and spread out, allowing voids to grow naturally. This balance between cold emptiness and warm clusters shapes the map of the universe, creating contrast between places of activity and places of stillness. The gaps act as quiet anchors, giving structure to the crowded regions around them. And while the cold here is extreme, it is gentle. It does not attack or disturb. It simply exists as the natural state of distance and silence. In this stillness, energy travels gracefully. Light glides without interruption. Time flows evenly, untouched by turbulence. Even gravity behaves differently here, spreading softly through the emptiness with no obstacles to slow its influence. The silent cold of deep space is not frightening. It is peaceful in a way that earthly cold could never be. It is calm, steady, and endless, a place where the universe's most delicate laws unfold without disturbance. In this slow, quiet cold, the cosmos reveals its patience, its scale, and its gentle rhythm. The more you linger in this thought, the more you realize that the cold is not emptiness, but clarity. It rips away everything unnecessary, leaving only the quiet structure beneath. And within that clarity, the universe breathes with a softness that cannot be felt on any planet. As you continue drifting through the vast silence between galaxies, a gentle realization begins to form. These empty-looking regions are more than open space. They act like the universe's memory, holding the faint echoes of everything that has ever happened. In the same way quiet rooms preserve the softest sounds, the gaps of space preserve the oldest traces of light, energy, and motion. They are not blank pages, but deep archives written with details so subtle that only patience can reveal them. Old starlight travels through these zones with remarkable calm. It carries remnants of events long past, gliding untouched by dust or gas. Each wandering photon holds a quiet story, a journey that began perhaps billions of years ago. It may have left a star that no longer exists, passed by galaxies that have since drifted apart, and crossed voids that have grown much wider since its departure. Yet, the photon continues its silent path, carrying with it the imprint of a moment that would otherwise be forgotten. The gaps preserve these ancient signals because nothing interrupts them. There is no crowding of matter, no forceful collisions, no turbulent winds to scatter or distort them. The silence becomes a shelter, allowing energy to cross unimaginable distances while keeping its message intact. In this way, the voids become vast corridors of memory, stretching across the universe like quiet hallways filled with forgotten light. Even the faint hum of background radiation, the gentle afterglow of the earliest moments of cosmic history, drifts through these spaces unchanged. It is the oldest light that exists, carrying with it the shape of the young universe, the tiny ripples that later formed galaxies and stars. The silent gaps cradle this ancient glow, letting it pass, expand, and soften without interference. This gentle survival of early energy makes the voids important historians of the cosmos, preserving a record that no star, planet, or galaxy could ever keep. There are traces of motion here too, subtle reminders of how the universe has shaped itself. The quiet expansion of space is written into the way light stretches as it travels. The longer it moves, the softer and redder its color becomes, as if time itself gently pulls on it. This stretching is slow and peaceful, adding another layer of memory to the darkness. Light becomes a timeline, and the voids allow it to grow wider with each passing moment. Even gravity leaves faint signatures here. The pull of distant galaxies alters the path of wandering light, bending it ever so slightly. These small curves, almost invisible, tell a story about where matter lies, how it moves, and where it collects. The silence does not erase these details. It preserves them, holding the shape of cosmic motion in delicate impressions that spread across space like the soft ripples of water. In a way, the voids are the universe's most honest regions. They do not create new stories, but they carry the old ones without altering them. They do not shine, but they reflect the past through the gentle travel of photons and the faint bending of energy. Everything that crosses these gaps becomes part of a long, quiet record that continues long after stars have burned out and galaxies have changed shape. This memory-like quality of space gives the universe a sense of continuity, connects moments separated by billions of years. It allows events too distant to see directly to leave a soft trace, a quiet whisper carried through the dark. While stars live and die, while galaxies drift and change, the silent gaps hold the echoes of everything, keeping the universe linked through time. As you reflect on these ideas, you may notice a calming truth. Even in stillness, even in darkness, even in silence, the universe remembers. The quiet regions between galaxies are not empty. They are filled with the softest testimonies of creation, motion, and time. As you drift through the universe's quietest places, a gentle truth begins to reveal itself. The silent gaps are not rare spaces between galaxies. They are the main structure of the cosmos. Most of the universe is not bright, crowded, or loud. Most of it is open, dark, and calm. The glowing stars and swirling nebulae that fill our imaginations are only small details scattered across an overwhelmingly spacious canvas. The silence is not the background. It is the foundation. This vast emptiness exists because the universe has always been expanding. Ever since the earliest moment of creation, space has been stretching outward, and as it stretched, matter separated into denser islands surrounded by widening seas of dark calm. The filaments formed where matter gathered, and the voids formed where matter drifted apart. Over time, these empty regions grew larger than the clusters themselves. The universe, by its nature, creates far more silence than structure. But the size of the voids is not accidental. Silence is necessary for galaxies to form in the first place. If matter were packed too closely, everything would collapse inward too quickly, forming only tight clumps with little room to grow. The empty spaces act as gentle buffers, giving galaxies room to spin, expand, and evolve. They protect the delicate balance that allows stars to live long, stable lives and planets to form quietly around them. Without the surrounding stillness, the cosmos would be chaotic and short-lived. Even the shape of the voids influences how galaxies move. The emptiness creates gentle outward currents that guide matter toward the filaments, helping maintain the cosmic web. This flow is subtle, not like a wind or a river, but more like the slow settling of dust in a quiet room. Over billions of years, this settling creates the smooth patterns we see in the large-scale structure of the universe. The silence shapes the motion shapes the cosmos. It may seem strange that emptiness can influence so much, but in the universe, stillness is powerful. A void does not need mass to affect the environment around it. It needs only space. The expansion of the void allows galaxies to drift. The lack of matter prevents friction, and the openness gives energy and light a clear path through the darkness. The still regions do not struggle or compete. They allow everything else to unfold naturally. And although they appear hollow, voids are full of delicate traces. Thin streams of particles wander through them. Old light moves effortlessly across their open distance. Invisible matter spreads softly across their edges. The silent gaps are not empty in the way a human room is empty. They are empty in the way an ocean is calm. Deep, broad, and filled with subtle motion that exists beneath the surface. Their stillness also holds a quiet beauty. In the deepest parts of these voids, stars appear tiny and scattered, each one a lonely point against the dark. The light seems sharper here, more isolated, floating alone in the black. If you were traveling through one of these regions, The sky around you would feel cavernous, as if you had stepped into a vast cathedral made entirely of shadow. The silence would feel endless, but not frightening. It would feel peaceful, like a slow exhale that lasts across the ages. In these spaces, time feels different too. Without nearby stars or planets to mark its passage, time becomes smooth and continuous, stretching softly across the darkness. The only thing that changes is distance. As galaxies drift apart and the universe widens like a slow unfolding scroll, the silent gaps are where the future of the cosmos quietly takes shape. The emptiness is not a mistake. It is not wasted. It is the quiet space that lets everything else live, move, and evolve. It gives galaxies room to breathe, light room to travel, and time room to unfold. As you wander farther into the quiet depths between galaxies, another question arises in the stillness. Are these silent gaps dangerous, or are they peaceful by their nature? In stories and imagination, the deep darkness of space often feels hostile, as if emptiness itself might swallow light or life. But you examine these regions closely, a different picture emerges, one shaped not by fear but by calm reality. The voids are not places of harm. They are places of deep neutrality, spaces where nothing disturbs, nothing presses, nothing demands. The very qualities that make these gaps seem intimidating are the same qualities that make them peaceful. There is no air to pull at you, no storms to chase you, no radiation blasting from nearby stars. The silence is complete because nothing around you stirs. You are surrounded not by threat, but by absence, and that absence holds its own kind of serenity. It is a calm so deep that it becomes almost gentle, a quiet so still that it feels like a cosmic resting place. If life as we know it were to exist here, it would not be harmed by turbulence or violence. Instead, it would simply drift without resistance. The danger comes not from activity, but from the lack of it. Life needs warmth, pressure, material, and energy, and these voids provide none of those things. They are peaceful, but they are also inhospitable, like a vast desert with no sand, no wind, no path. They offer no resources, no anchors, nothing to grow from. They are still, but that stillness is too gentle to support life. Yet this quiet neutrality is essential for life elsewhere. Without these calm regions, the cosmos would be too crowded, too chaotic, too compressed to give galaxies space to form stable structures. If the universe were tightly packed with matter, stars would crush together, planets would be pulled apart, and the calm environments needed for life would never arise. The silent gaps give the universe balance. They create the spaciousness that allows warmth and structure to exist in other places. They are the soft pauses in a much larger symphony. Even the radiation that passes through these voids is gentle. It is old, stretched by time, softened by distance. It does not strike violently. It drifts. It floats. It cools. The deeper the void, the softer the energy becomes. In these regions, the harshness of space is replaced by a kind of cosmic quiet, a place where the universe whispers instead of roars. Because there is so little material, there is also no friction. Anything moving here continues moving, uninterrupted, unchallenged, almost weightless in its ease. A particle could drift for billions of years without meeting another. A beam of light could pass forever without dimming. Motion spreads out into pure simplicity. Nothing interferes, nothing stops, nothing rushes. It is the most unhurried environment that exists. Some thinkers describe these voids as the universe's gentle exhale, the spacious release that keeps everything from collapsing inward. In this sense, the silent gaps are not empty at all. They are filled with the role they play, giving the cosmos room to breathe, expand, and exist without crushing itself under its own weight. Their peace is structural, not accidental. And when you imagine floating in this deep quiet, you may realize something softer still. The silence does not judge, does not threaten, does not change. It simply accepts whatever passes through it: light, particles, time, without resistance. The voids are the most patient places in the universe, holding space for everything without needing to shape it. This deep calm, far from being frightening, becomes comforting. It reminds you that the universe does not always move with intensity. Sometimes it rests. Sometimes it opens its arms wide, creating vast stretches of nothing, so that something beautiful can grow elsewhere. The silent gaps may not hold life, but they hold the conditions that allow life to exist at all. As you journey deeper into the universe's quiet expanses, it becomes clear that these silent gaps were not formed by accident. Their presence is woven into the earliest moments of creation, shaped by the same forces that built the stars and galaxies. To understand why they exist, you must travel back in thought to a time when the universe was young, still glowing, still expanding in a rapid burst of energy and light. Even then, the seeds of stillness were being planted. In the earliest moments, matter did not spread evenly. Tiny variations in density formed naturally, caused by slight differences in energy, pressure, and temperature. Some regions had just a little more material gathered together, while others had slightly less. These differences were small, delicate, almost imperceptible, yet they became the blueprint for the entire universe. The denser regions would one day collapse into galaxies and stars. The thinner ones would become the silent gaps, the vast voids that stretch between the cosmic filaments. As the universe expanded, these early patterns grew larger. The dense regions pulled matter inward, forming clusters, while the empty regions expanded more freely, becoming wider and smoother. Over billions of years, this simple contrast between full and empty created the cosmic web we see today. The voids were not carved out or pushed aside. They grew naturally as space stretched, becoming the calm spaces between the bright, crowded regions of the universe. This means that silence is not something added later. It is something the universe was born with. The gaps are ancient, older than any star, older than the galaxies that now shine across them. They carry the original shape of the cosmos, the imprint of the earliest fluctuations frozen into place by expansion. In a way, these quiet regions are the universe's first structures. Not the glowing stars, not the swirling galaxies, but the empty spaces between them. The growth of the voids also influenced how galaxies formed. As the emptier regions expanded, matter flowed out of them, falling toward the denser filaments. This flow helped shape the large-scale structure, guiding the formation of galaxy clusters along the invisible pathways between voids. Without these early expansions, galaxies might have formed in tangled, chaotic lumps instead of the graceful patterns we observe today. Silence created order. Stillness created structure. Even today, the voids continue to expand slightly faster than the universe as a whole. This gentle widening shapes the paths of galaxies, pulling them subtly toward the edges of emptiness. The result is that the cosmic web becomes thinner over time, stretching its luminous threads farther apart. The universe ages by growing more spacious, more open, more dominated by silence. It is as if the cosmos breathes out gradually, allowing the gaps to open while the bright regions drift farther away from each other. And through all these changes, one thing remains constant. The quiet gaps hold the history of everything around them. Their emptiness is not a blank. It is a preserved record of the universe's earliest form. They show us what the cosmos looked like before stars began to shine, before galaxies took shape, before the universe became bright. They are reminders of a time when all was potential, when matter was merely beginning to separate into the structures we now study. The voids tell a story that shines in silence. They reveal that creation did not happen in a smooth, predictable way. It happened through contrast, through the interplay of fullness and emptiness, of pressure and expansion, of light and shadow. The universe grew not by filling every space, but by leaving some spaces open. These quiet regions were necessary from the beginning, not as flaws or leftovers, but as essential elements of cosmic balance. As you continue floating through the deep calm between galaxies, another subtle truth becomes clear. Even silence has movement. Even emptiness has rhythm. The voids may appear still, but they are shaped by slow currents that flow through the universe like soft tides. This motion is not fast, not forceful, and not something you could ever feel with senses shaped by life on Earth. It unfolds across unimaginable distances and over time scales longer than the lifetime of stars. Yet it is real, gentle, and constant. The most fundamental movement in these gaps comes from the expansion of space itself. It is not like wind pushing air, nor like water rising in a river. Expansion has no direction. It does not blow from one side to another. Instead, it increases the distance between all things evenly, like the slow stretching of a fabric. If you place 2 points in the void and watch them for ages, they would drift apart simply because space between them had grown. This stretching happens everywhere, including the quiet regions, but it is most noticeable where matter is sparse. In the voids, nothing resists the expansion. Silence widens easily. This gentle widening creates soft currents that guide the movement of matter. Material along the edges of voids feels a faint outward pull, drifting slightly toward the emptiness before being redirected by gravity toward the nearby filaments. Over long periods of time, these motions shape the large-scale structure of the universe. They carve the voids into smoother and more spherical shapes, allowing them to grow like slow-moving bubbles within the cosmic web. Within the voids, particles drift on paths shaped by this expansion. A tiny atom, a lonely speck of dust, or a fragment of ancient starlight moves without friction, floating along gravitational contours that change almost imperceptibly as the universe stretches. There is no turbulence here, no sudden shifts. Motion is smooth, steady, and unbroken, like a leaf drifting on a perfectly calm lake. Light itself participates in this quiet movement. As it travels through the expanding voids, its wavelength stretches, becoming softer and longer. This process is not caused by anything touching the light. It is simply the result of space itself, lengthening as the photon travels. This stretching is why distant galaxies appear redder than they truly are. Their light has been softened by its long journey through the silent, expanding voids. In this way, the gaps quietly shape the color of the cosmos. There is also a faint gravitational motion within the voids. Even though they contain little matter, the vast structures around them create an uneven pull. The voids are like valleys surrounded by distant hills. Matter from the edges flows gently toward the walls of the voids, moving along the cosmic landscape in slow, curved paths. These movements are so delicate that they unfold over hundreds of millions of years, yet they influence the formation of galaxies and clusters. Another quiet motion comes from the cosmic background radiation, which drifts through the voids with a near-perfect uniformity. Its temperature has cooled over cosmic time, but its spread is so smooth that it flows like a calm river of ancient energy. This radiation interacts subtly with the voids, tracing their shape and giving us clues about their size and depth. Even in silence, the old light maps out the emptiness. When you imagine these movements together, the voids no longer feel empty. They feel alive in a quiet, slow, and ancient way. The silence is full of subtle currents, gentle influences, and patient flows. The rhythm of the voids is the rhythm of the universe itself. Soft expansion, slow drift, faint curvature, and the steady passage of light. Nothing in the voids moves quickly because there is no need. Nothing struggles for space, because space is abundant. Nothing collides, because distances are immense. Motion here is not chaos, but meditation. It is the universe breathing in the calm between its brighter, louder regions. As you remain in the vast quiet that stretches between galaxies, a natural question begins to rise in the mind. If these silent gaps are so enormous, so calm and so untouched, is it possible that they hold things we have not yet imagined? Even though the voids appear simple, their size and stillness leave room for mysteries that may lie beyond our present understanding. They are places where the universe behaves in ways that are too gentle and too subtle for our senses, places where the limits of knowledge begin to blur into quiet possibility. One of the most intriguing ideas is that the voids could hide forms of matter or energy that have not yet been detected. We know that space carries faint fluctuations, quiet hints of activity that come from the quantum fabric of reality. These small spark-like events flicker in and out of existence, appearing too briefly to be seen, yet always present in the background. Some theories suggest that these fluctuations may be stronger, stranger, or more complex than we currently realize. The voids, with their calm emptiness, could be the perfect stage for such delicate activity. There is also a thought that the voids might contain light or particles so faint that they slip through our instruments unnoticed. Some forms of radiation could drift through these regions with such softness that they hardly interact with anything at all. In this sense, the voids might be quiet rivers carrying energies we cannot yet measure, energies that flow gently through the universe without ever leaving a clear trace. Another idea suggests that the voids could hold small pockets of matter that are too thin to form stars, too cold to glow, and too widely spread to be noticed. These particles would drift silently, following the shape of the cosmic web without ever gathering enough to become bright. They would exist like faint shadows, present but invisible, contributing quietly to the gravity that shapes the universe. Some thinkers even wonder whether the voids might reveal properties of space itself that are hidden elsewhere. In crowded regions filled with stars and gas, the behavior of space can be masked by noise, heat, and motion. But in the voids, the calm might allow the true nature of space to show itself. The way light moves, the way the vacuum flickers, the way distance stretches, all of these could hold clues about the deeper structure of reality. It is in the quiet that the universe sometimes speaks most clearly. There is also the possibility that the voids contain structures we cannot yet imagine. Not structures made of matter as we know it, but patterns formed from energy, curvature, or quantum fields that behave differently from anything in our everyday world. These patterns would not shine or interact like normal objects. They would exist quietly, influencing the universe in subtle ways that we have not yet learned to detect. They might be as gentle as ripples in a calm lake, so soft that they can only be seen when looking across the entire cosmic surface. Even if none of these ideas turn out to be true, the empty spaces will still hold one undeniable mystery: their sheer size. The voids are some of the largest structures in the universe, stretching across hundreds of millions of light years. Their existence alone challenges our sense of scale and invites us to wonder whether such vast calmness might hold secrets simply because it is too large for us to fully explore. The silence itself becomes a kind of question, one that lingers softly in the imagination. And perhaps the most comforting truth is this: the universe does not reveal everything at once. It leaves room for curiosity, for imagination, for gentle speculation about what might lie beyond our reach. The silent gaps remind us that mystery is not only in the dramatic or the bright, but also in the calm and the quiet. They invite us to breathe slowly, to listen carefully, and to accept that some parts of existence unfold in silence. As you drift through the deep quiet, another realization begins to unfold with gentle certainty. The silent gaps are not only part of the universe's past and present, they are also the shape of its future. With every passing moment, the universe grows more spacious, more open, more dominated by these calm regions of darkness, the bright, crowded places we know today. Galaxies, clusters, star-forming regions will slowly become islands floating in a sea of deepening silence. The expansion of space will continue, stretching the fabric of the universe the way a slow breath expands the chest. Galaxies will drift farther apart, clusters will loosen their bonds, and the cosmic web will become thinner with time. The voids will widen, swallowing the distance between the filaments, until the bright points of the universe appear more scattered than ever before. The silent gaps will grow into vast oceans of stillness, shaping the large-scale structure of the cosmos in ways we can barely imagine. As the universe ages, the balance between bright and quiet regions will shift. Today, starlight still fills the darkness with gentle radiance, and galaxies cluster along invisible threads. But in the distant future, starlight will fade as stars exhaust their fuel and burn out. The galaxies will continue to exist, but their glow will weaken, their structure will soften, and their activity will slow. Meanwhile, the silent gaps will keep expanding, untouched by the fading light. These growing voids will give the universe a calm, spacious character. The once crowded cosmos will feel lighter, quieter, and more open. Even the remaining galaxies will drift into deeper isolation, surrounded by horizons of emptiness that stretch farther than any light can travel. Motion will still exist, but it will unfold with a softness that feels almost like stillness. Expansion will continue gently, spreading the silence without disturbing it. In this distant era, the quiet regions will become the dominant landscape of the cosmos. Their emptiness will not be a sign of loss, but a reflection of how the universe naturally evolves. Over time, structure dissolves into calm, light fades into softness, and motion becomes more delicate. The silent gaps hold the future shape of everything. They are where the universe is heading, one slow moment at a time. Yet even in that future, emptiness will not mean meaninglessness. Ancient light will still travel through the widening darkness, carrying stories from a time when galaxies were closer. Invisible matter will still guide the remaining structures, shaping their paths as gently as ever. Quantum flickers will still shimmer in the vacuum, giving even the empty regions a quiet pulse. The universe will not stop breathing. It will simply breathe more softly. Some imagine this future as lonely, but it may instead feel peaceful. A universe filled mostly with silent gaps is not a barren place. It is a calm, spacious environment where nothing rushes, nothing crashes, and nothing interrupts the slow unfolding of time. The voids will cradle what remains of the cosmos, surrounding every surviving galaxy with gentle darkness. From this perspective, the silent gaps are not simply regions lacking matter. They are expressions of the universe's long-term rhythm, the natural consequence of expansion, balance, and time. They reveal how the cosmos grows, how it calms, and how it ages. In the future, silence will be the greatest presence in the universe, stretching from one horizon to the next. As you continue drifting through the soft stillness of the universe, a new thought rises from the darkness. What becomes of the light that crosses these silent gaps as the universe grows older and more spacious? What happens to the glow of galaxies, the warmth of stars, and the faint radiation that fills the emptiness when silence becomes the dominant force of the cosmos? Light is remarkably patient. A single photon can travel for billions of years without slowing, weaving its way through voids, filaments, and distant horizons. But as the universe expands, the path that light must cross becomes longer, and the fabric of space stretches around it. When space stretches, the light inside it stretches too. Its color softens, its energy fades, and its message becomes quieter. In the far future, the silent gaps will grow so wide that light from distant galaxies will take longer and longer to reach anywhere. Some of it will be stretched so far that its wavelength becomes invisible, slipping into forms of radiation too faint to detect. The once bright universe will dim slowly, gently, like a candle burning at the far end of a great hall. It will not go out suddenly. It will fade gradually, softened by the calm of expanding space. The photons that survive will continue their journey through the widening voids, drifting ever farther without interruption. They will carry the stories of stars long gone, galaxies long faded, and events long forgotten. The silent gaps will hold them softly, allowing them to travel without disturbance, keeping the universe connected even as its brightness fades. Eventually, the structure of the cosmic web will remain, but the light that outlines it will become faint. Galaxies that were once bright will lose their glow as their stars age and darken. The silent gaps will expand around them, creating distances so vast that even the fastest light will fail to cross them within meaningful stretches of time. The cosmos will not become dark all at once. It will dim slowly, like twilight deepening into night. Still, the voids themselves will remain active in quiet ways. They will continue to stretch, to cradle ancient energy, and to host the faint flickers of quantum motion. Light will become rarer, but not absent. It will drift through the emptiness with greater softness, each photon stretched into a calm whisper of energy. The universe's memory will still exist, just quieter, colder, and more delicate. In this deep future, the silent gaps will take on a new meaning. They will not be places where light disappears. They will be places where light becomes more subtle, more patient, more timeless. The slow fading of the cosmos will give the voids a serene beauty, as if the universe is gently lowering its voice. Think of the silent gaps as the universe's twilight fields, where the day of creation slowly becomes the night of eternity. Light will continue to drift through them, even when the galaxies have dimmed. The emptiness will host the last glimmers of the cosmos, letting them move through its quiet depths without ever stopping them. Even then, in the most distant eras, the silent gaps will not be truly empty. They will hold faint particles, soft energy, stretched light, and the quiet rhythm of expansion. The voids will remain the universe's calmest places, holding everything with patience as the cosmos grows older. As you drift farther into the deep calm of the cosmos, you begin to encounter some of the universe's most astonishing structures. Its largest voids. These enormous regions stretch across distances so vast that they dwarf entire clusters of galaxies. They are the quiet giants of the universe, vast rooms of near emptiness that define the shape of everything around them. Their presence is so subtle, yet their size is so overwhelming that it is impossible not to feel a sense of wonder when imagining them. These immense voids did not form suddenly. They grew slowly, shaped by gentle differences in the amount of matter in the early universe. Regions that began with slightly less material expanded more freely, while denser regions pulled matter inward, forming the filaments and clusters. Over billions of years, this simple difference grew into structures of extraordinary scale. The largest voids span distances so great that light itself takes enormous stretches of time to cross them. They are like the vast open plains of the cosmos, silent and almost untouched. What makes these colossal voids fascinating is not just their size, but the softness of their influence. They do not act like massive gravitational wells or powerful forces. Instead, they shape the universe through absence. By lacking matter, they allow the regions around them to grow more structured. They create space where galaxies can move without friction, where clusters can form at the edges, and where gravity can guide matter along smooth, gentle paths. Their silence shapes the motion around them, like the open spaces in a landscape shape the flow of wind. These voids also create surprising behaviors in the galaxies near their boundaries. Galaxies at the edge of a large void tend to move slightly away from its center, drifting toward denser regions. This motion is not dramatic. It is slow and steady, more like a subtle leaning than a push. Yet over long ages, this gentle shift helps carve the cosmic web, pulling galaxies into elegant patterns that trace the shape of the universe. Inside the biggest voids, the emptiness becomes even more profound. The number of stars, planets, and dust particles drops dramatically. If you could float in the center of one, the sky would appear unusually bare. Only a few distant galaxies would sparkle faintly in the darkness, tiny and isolated against the vast black backdrop. The silence here would feel almost absolute, broken only by the slow drift of ancient light passing through from distant corners of the cosmos. It is a quiet so deep that even time feels unhurried, stretching gently toward a future shaped by calmness. In these enormous spaces, the faint glow of ancient radiation continues to flow, unchanged by nearby activity because there is none. Particles drift without interruption. Space expands with ease. The emptiness becomes a kind of cosmic sanctuary where the universe expresses its stillness most clearly. These vast voids may appear barren, but they teach us much about the nature of the cosmos. They show that absence is not a flaw, but a fundamental ingredient of existence. They remind us that the universe grows through contrast, the fullness of galaxies by the openness of space. The sheer size of these voids gives them a sense of mystery. Their calmness is so immense that it naturally leads to the question of whether they might hold something subtle, something hidden by their vastness and silence. And even if they do not, the idea that the universe can create structures so large yet so peaceful is awe-inspiring. These quiet expanses speak to the gentle side of cosmic evolution, a side where complexity arises not through chaos, but through the soft shaping of space. As you continue drifting through the vast quiet of the cosmos, another truth rises gently through the darkness. The silent gaps are not simply empty regions scattered between galaxies. They are the structural pillars of the universe, the calm spaces that allow everything else to exist in balance. Without these enormous areas of stillness, the cosmos would collapse into disorder or crowd itself too tightly for stars and galaxies to form with stability. Silence is not a leftover. It is a design. Think of the universe as a grand architecture, built not only from luminous matter, but from open space shaped with purpose. The voids provide room for galaxies to breathe, room for clusters to grow, and room for light to travel without interruption. They provide the contrast that makes structure possible. In nature, balance often appears in the form of opposites: light and shadow, warmth and cold, motion and stillness. The cosmic voids are the shadows that give shape to the light. They define the boundaries where galaxies can gather and align themselves into the cosmic web. The stillness within a void also influences how the surrounding regions evolve. Without pressure from surrounding matter, the emptiest spaces expand more freely, tugging gently on the nearest filaments. This stretching helps maintain the delicate tension that keeps galaxies moving in graceful patterns rather than crowding into chaotic piles. The voids act like soft cushions, absorbing the pull of expansion and allowing the universe to open without tearing its structure apart. These silent regions also help regulate the temperature of space. The emptiness allows heat to disperse smoothly, preventing rapid changes that might disturb the delicate processes happening in star-forming regions. They keep the cosmos from becoming too turbulent, too hot, or too compressed. In a sense, the voids act as cosmic cooling chambers, allowing energy to flow and spread until it reaches a calm equilibrium. Without these vast expanses, the universe would feel tight and restless, full of energetic clashes with no place to expand. The voids play a quiet role in guiding gravity as well. Gravity flows through space like a gentle tide, and the presence of emptiness influences how it spreads. The universe's invisible framework adjusts itself around the largest voids, shaping the pathways along which galaxies drift. This quiet interaction is part of the cosmic dance between matter and space, a dance that unfolds slowly, almost imperceptibly, across billions of years. Think of a web stretched across a frame. If certain areas are left open, the entire structure becomes more balanced, more stable, and more graceful. The cosmic voids are those open spaces. They prevent the web from collapsing in on itself. They ensure that the universe maintains a harmonious pattern rather than becoming tangled. Their calm presence guides how the filaments form, how clusters gather, and how galaxies line up into long, elegant chains. Even the flow of time feels different near the edges of these silent regions. With fewer gravitational influences, the fabric of space stretches smoothly, creating a gentle environment for cosmic expansion. Time does not rush or resist. It spreads evenly. The smooth passage of time allows fragile processes in galaxies to unfold without disruption. Stars can form, planets can orbit, and life can emerge because the universe is not crowded or chaotic. The stillness of the voids gives other places the opportunity to host complexity. And perhaps the deepest role of the silent gaps is the balance they bring to the universe's overall shape. Without emptiness, the cosmos would be dense and unstable. Without stillness, motion would become violent and unmanageable. Without darkness, light would have no space to travel or contrast to define it. The quiet regions hold everything together not through force, but through openness. They act as the gentle counterweight to the universe's brightest and busiest places. As you continue floating in the quiet darkness, a deeper question slowly forms in your mind. If these vast gaps appear empty, are they truly empty at all? Or is the emptiness merely the way our limited senses interpret something far more subtle and complex? The more closely you observe the silent regions of the universe, the clearer it becomes that nothingness is never truly nothing. The voids might look hollow, yet they hold layers of faint activity and delicate structure that make the concept of emptiness far more mysterious than it seems. Even in the calmest parts of space, the fabric of the universe is constantly shimmering with tiny fluctuations. These flickers of energy arise quietly and vanish just as quickly, happening everywhere, even in the deepest voids. They are too small to see, too brief to measure directly, but they give the vacuum a soft, internal pulse. This means that even the quietest region is not static. It is alive with gentle, momentary sparks that give space its texture. The void is not a blank canvas. It is a surface of countless invisible brushstrokes. Beyond these tiny flickers, there are also fields that stretch across the universe. They do not shine, they do not move like wind, and they do not behave like matter. Instead, they form a silent background that fills all of space evenly. Wherever you travel in the universe, these fields remain present, surrounding every particle, every photon, and every empty region. They give space its structure, guiding how matter interacts and how energy flows. Their presence reminds you that emptiness is never truly empty. It is shaped by quiet forces that work everywhere, even in the darkest places. The silent gaps also contain traces of matter so thin that they seem non-existent. A handful of atoms may drift through a region that spans millions of light years. These atoms are scattered, cold, and far apart, yet they still exist, moving through the void with the patience of eternity. They are reminders that matter is stubborn. Even in regions where it is almost absent, it refuses to vanish completely. Light, too, flows through the voids. Faint photons from distant galaxies glide across the vast emptiness, stretched by expansion but still present. Even when their energy becomes too low to detect, they continue to drift, carrying quiet stories of ancient stars. They are the universe's oldest messages, whispered across the silence. The voids hold them gently, allowing them to travel unharmed across unimaginable distances. There is also gravity, subtle and persistent. Even in places without matter, gravity shapes the behavior of space itself. It curves the emptiness ever so slightly, creating invisible patterns that guide the motion of galaxies far away. This means that the voids have form, even if nothing inside them shines or moves. They stretch, bend, and shift like soft fabric responding to distant pulls. When you combine all these elements, the flickering energy, the thin traces of matter, the cosmic fields, the drifting photons, and the silent curvature, you begin to see that emptiness is a kind of illusion. The voids only appear empty because everything inside them is too subtle for ordinary senses or simple instruments. Their calmness hides their complexity, the same way a still lake hides the gentle currents beneath its surface. In this way, the silent gaps are neither vacant nor meaningless. They are hidden landscapes, full of delicate whispers that weave through the cosmic fabric. They are the quiet chapters of the universe's story, written in ink so light that only time itself can read it. The more you think about these gaps, the more you realize that emptiness is simply a softer kind of presence. It holds space for everything else to exist, and within its quiet layers, countless subtle processes continue to unfold. As your journey through the vast quiet of the universe reaches its final stretch, the silence around you begins to feel different. It no longer feels like absence. It feels like presence, a soft, endless presence that supports everything else. The more time you spend drifting in the calm between galaxies, the more you understand that the silent gaps are not just parts of the universe. They are the canvas on which the universe paints its story. Without them, nothing else could exist with stability or beauty. All along your path, the quiet regions have revealed themselves not as empty holes, but as ancient structures shaped with gentle precision. They store old light, preserve the earliest imprints of creation, and give galaxies the space they need to grow. They guide gravity with their openness, soften the flow of energy, and offer time a place to stretch without resistance. The voids are the universe's deep breath, slow, steady, and essential. Their calmness allows the cosmos to evolve gracefully. Stars ignite in pockets of density because the surrounding emptiness gives them room. Galaxies spin in perfect harmony because the nearby silence prevents chaotic collisions. Even the spread of light, the soft fading of radiation, and the shape of cosmic motion depend on the stillness of the voids. The universe works not through constant action, but through a balance of motion and quiet. And the quiet speaks just as loudly as the motion. When you look at the largest structures in the cosmos, the silent gaps form the outlines of everything bright. They stretch like vast oceans between islands of stars, creating a cosmic geography defined as much by what is not there as by what is. The voids shape the cosmic web, the movement of clusters, and the distant future of the universe. Their presence is gentle, yet their influence is immense. What makes this silence so comforting is the way it treats everything equally. Light travels freely through it. Time flows smoothly. Even the faintest particle glides without interruption. The voids do not cling, push, or pull. They simply exist, offering space and calm to whatever passes through. In their quietness, they display a kind of cosmic kindness, an openness that allows the universe to unfold without force. And as the universe continues to expand, these silent regions will grow even more dominant. The future of the cosmos will be shaped by calmness. Brightness will fade, but the quiet will deepen. Motion will soften, but the openness will grow. In the end, the silent gaps will hold the last gentle echoes of everything that ever existed. They will cradle the final photons, the last drifting particles, and the soft rhythms of a universe that has been expanding since the first moment of time. When you imagine this far future, it does not feel frightening. It feels peaceful. The cosmos is not racing toward chaos, but settling into a grand stillness. Stars may fade, galaxies may drift apart, but the universe itself will remain quiet and calm, filled with soft remnants of light traveling through patient darkness. The silent gaps will become the universe's final expression, vast, serene, and timeless. As you take one last look into the quiet, you realize that these gaps were never empty. They were always full of history, full of motion, full of delicate presence. They hold the universe together with their spaciousness and allow its beauty to unfold with ease. The silence is not a void to be feared. It is a gentle foundation on which everything rests. And in this calm, infinite stillness, the universe continues its slow, graceful journey, drifting, expanding, and whispering through the darkness, held forever by the peaceful hollows that lie between the stars.